Have you ever sat at home on a quiet weekend and thought, why does it feel harder to connect with people now than it used to? Maybe you've caught yourself scrolling through photos of smiling faces at parties, or group vacations and felt just a little left out. Or maybe you've whispered the words, "We should get together sometime." But 6 months pass and that coffee never happens. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone, not by a long shot. Let me ask you something more personal. Do you ever feel like the older you get, the smaller your circle becomes? Not because you've changed into someone who doesn't want friends, but because life just seems to get in the way. You're not imagining it. Making friends, real friends, in your 60s, 70s, and beyond can be surprisingly difficult. And not for the reasons you might think. This video is a heart-to-heart. Just you and me, talking about something that doesn't get talked about enough, the truth about friendships in later life. Because despite all the wisdom we gain over the years, many of us are still carrying around a few quiet lies. Lies that convince us it's too late. Lies that whisper no one is interested. Lies that tell us to stay comfortable, even if that comfort feels a little lonely. But here's the good news. Once we shine a light on those lies, they start to lose their power. And once you know what's really been holding you back, you can start to take small, brave steps toward building the kind of meaningful connections that fill your life with warmth, laughter, and maybe even a little adventure again. So let's talk about the first lie, and it's a big one. It's the belief that everyone else's life is a big party, and you just weren't invited. Now, I know how this goes. You log onto Facebook or scroll through your phone, and there they are. People at backyard barbecues, sipping wine on patios, traveling together, or celebrating birthdays surrounded by big groups. Meanwhile, your Friday night looks more like reheated soup and a favorite TV show under a blanket. There's nothing wrong with that, unless it leaves you feeling like you've been left behind. But here's the truth, no one posts online. What you're seeing isn't the full story. It's the highlight reel, the curated version of life. People don't share the hours they spent feeling disconnected, the text messages that went unanswered, or the quiet longing to be included. And most of the time, the people you'd get along with best, they're also at home, under their own blankets, wishing someone would reach out. So if you've ever caught yourself thinking, everyone's out having fun except me, pause, breathe. That's a lie. One that's easy to believe in a world where likes and photos can fool even the wisest among us. The real truth is that most people, yes, even those smiling in selfies, are hungry for deeper connection. And sometimes all it takes is one person willing to start the conversation. That person could be you. Now here's another lie that slips in quietly and does a lot of damage. People don't really like me. Maybe you've told yourself this after a social event where no one really stuck around to chat. Or maybe it comes up when you don't get a reply to a message you sent. You start to wonder if you said something wrong. Or worse, if you're just not someone people want to be around anymore. Can I tell you something that might surprise you? This isn't just in your head, it's a common feeling. And there's actual research on it. Scientists call it the liking gap. It means we tend to underestimate how much others actually enjoy our company. In other words, people often like you more than you think. Think back to a time when you had a nice conversation with someone. You probably walked away wondering if they liked talking to you. But here's the twist. They were probably thinking the exact same thing. You both liked each other, but neither of you was quite sure. So nothing happened. No follow-up, no invitation. Just two people doubting something that was actually real. And that self-doubt, it doesn't just keep us from reaching out. It convinces us to stay quiet, stay home, and stay lonely. And that's heartbreaking. Because the people who could become amazing friends, they might be one phone call or one way, "Want to grab coffee?" but the lie convinces us it's safer not to try. So here's what I want you to consider. What if you just assumed people like you? What if you walked into a room, or a phone call, or a conversation, as if that were already true? Because chances are, it is. Let me give you a little example from my own life. I once hesitated to call an old friend for months. I assumed they were busy. I figured maybe they didn't care that much anymore. But when I finally called, they said, "I was hoping you'd reach out." I didn't want to bother you. We were both sitting around thinking we weren't wanted, when really we just needed a little courage to connect again. That brings me to the third lie, one that might sound sweet at first, but actually holds us back. It's the idea that true friends are forever. That once someone is your best friend, they'll be in your life until the end, no matter what. Now, I love the thought of lifelong friendship. Many of us have those one or two friends we've known for decades. But let's be honest, life changes. People move, priorities shift, energy fades. And holding on to friendships that no longer fit can actually close the door on new ones that might. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do, for yourself and for someone else, is to let a friendship change. Not because it didn't matter, but because you've both grown in different directions. That doesn't make you a bad friend. It makes you a human being. Think of it like this. Some friends are in your life for a reason. Maybe you worked together or had kids in the same school. Others are there for a season. Maybe your walking buddy during a recovery, or someone you met at church during a difficult time. And a few, a rare few, they're there for life. But just because someone was close once doesn't mean you owe them forever. When we let go of the pressure to maintain every friendship the same way forever, we make room for something beautiful. New people who match where we are now. People who energize us, who make us laugh, who listen without judgment. And yes, those people exist, even now. So let me ask you, who in your life lights you up right now? Who leaves you feeling lighter when you talk to them? If someone comes to mind, that's your clue. That's your invitation to reach out, nurture the connection, and allow it to grow, even if it's new. Friendship in your later years doesn't have to look like it did when you were younger. It doesn't have to be group vacations or birthday dinners or someone you see every week. Sometimes it's just a kind voice on the phone, a walk in the park, a shared laugh over coffee. And if none of that is in your life right now, it doesn't mean you've missed your chance. It just means you get to begin again. And believe me, some of the most important people in your life might still be ahead of you. Now that we've talked about how comparison, doubt, and old expectations can get in the way of real connection, let's keep going, because there are a few more lies we need to gently unlearn together. Sometimes the trickiest lies are the ones that sound like common sense. They slip into our heads quietly, and after a while, we start to believe them without even questioning. One of the most harmful? It's this one. I need to be friends with everyone. Now, I don't know about you, but I grew up in a generation where being polite, agreeable, and likable was practically a life skill. We were taught not to ruffle feathers, to keep the peace, and to get along with everyone. And that might have worked when we were younger, when we were part of big families, workplaces, neighborhoods, or church groups where harmony was expected. But let me tell you something that might be a little freeing to hear. You do not have to be everybody's friend. And not everybody is meant to be yours. That doesn't mean we become rude or shut down. It means we stop forcing connections that feel like work. You know that feeling? When every conversation with someone feels draining, when you find yourself walking on eggshells, or when you're always the one reaching out and never getting anything back. Those aren't friendships, those are performances. And you deserve better. You're not a plum trying to please someone who only likes peaches. You are a peach. A ripe, sweet, sun-warmed, one-of-a-kind peach. And if someone doesn't like peaches, that's okay. That just means they're not your people. See, real friendship isn't about convincing someone to like you. It's about mutual energy. It's about the ease of being fully yourself. No disguises, no effort to impress, no need to explain. Just two people meeting each other where they are. And the moment you let go of the idea that you have to be everyone's cup of tea, something beautiful happens. You start attracting the people who do love you as you are. And not just tolerate you, but genuinely enjoy your presence. That kind of friendship? It's rare, it's gold. And it becomes easier to find when you stop chasing the wrong connections out of guilt or habit. Let's be honest, when you're younger, making friends is mostly about proximity. You go to school together. You raise kids at the same time. You work at the same office or volunteer at the same church. But as you age, proximity starts to shrink. Your life becomes quieter. Your days more predictable. And unless you make a conscious effort, your circle can shrink too. Sometimes so much, it's not even a circle anymore. It's a dot. Which brings me to the fifth and final lie. And it's one of the hardest to shake. I'm too tired, too busy, or too old to make new friends. Now I get it. After a long day, whether it's watching the grandkids, managing your health, or just doing life, the last thing you may want to do is get dressed, drive somewhere, and try to socialize. Staying home feels easier, familiar, safe, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying your own company. That's a gift. But we need to be honest here. There's a difference between solitude and isolation. Solitude is peaceful. Isolation is painful. And sometimes we use busyness or tiredness to cover something else entirely. Fear. Fear of rejection. Fear that we no longer fit in. Fear that no one out there is looking for a friend like us. But the truth is, many people are. They just feel the same way you do. We've all gotten so used to doing everything from home. Groceries, doctor visits, even church. That going out to meet someone face to face feels like climbing a mountain. But here's something you need to know. Connection won't come knocking at your door. You have to open it. You have to step out, even if it's just a little. And stepping out doesn't mean signing up for a dance class or joining a dozen clubs, unless you want to. Sometimes it's as small as texting someone and saying, "Would love to grab coffee this week." Sometimes it's chatting with someone new at the library or inviting a neighbor to walk around the block. The truth is, it doesn't take a lot of effort, but it does take some. And the reward? It's bigger than you think. Study after study shows that people who maintain strong social connections as they age not only live longer, they live better, more joyful, more resilient, more hopeful. One of the most powerful studies ever done, the Harvard Men's Study, followed a group of men over 60 years. And what they found was simple but profound. It wasn't money, success, or even good genes that made people happy and healthy in later life. It was relationships. That's it. Not how many friends they had, not how popular they were, but whether they had people they could count on, people they could laugh with, cry with, sit in silence with. Even one or two people like that made all the difference. So, if you've ever told yourself, "I'm too old to make new friends," let me gently correct that. You are not too old, you are not too late, and the right people, they might be waiting for someone just like you. One woman I know, let's call her Jean, moved to a new town after her husband passed away. She didn't know a soul. For 6 months she stayed in, watched TV, and went to bed early. Then one day she saw a flyer at the library for a dahlia digging day, a community gardening event. She didn't garden. She didn't even like dahlias. But she showed up anyway. She figured if nothing else, she'd get some fresh air. That one decision turned into a new group of friends, weekly dinners, and a life that started to bloom again, just like those flowers. You never know where one small yes will lead. A walk, a phone call, a cup of tea. That's how connection begins. not with grand gestures, but with tiny openings. And sometimes, those openings change everything. So if you're feeling a little disconnected today, if you're tired of waiting for the phone to ring or the doorbell to chime, maybe it's time to take that small step. The truth is, most people are just waiting for someone else to go first. What if that someone is you? Let's keep going, because now that we've unlearned the lies, we're ready to discover a few simple, powerful tools that can help us create the kind of friendships we deserve. When it comes down to it, building meaningful friendships later in life isn't about trying harder. It's about trying differently. Once we've let go of the old beliefs that were quietly standing in our way, we create space for something new to begin. And that's where the good part starts. So let's talk about what you can do. Not in a you need to fix yourself kind of way, but more like handing you the right keys for the right doors. Because yes, friendship takes effort. But it doesn't need to feel overwhelming. It can feel simple, nourishing, and even a little fun again. Let's start with a tool I've come to love, something I call the 3 seasons of friendship. Think of it like this. Some friends come into your life for a reason, some for a season, and a precious few for a lifetime. Now that may sound poetic, but there's a lot of practical truth behind it. When we stop expecting every friendship to last forever, or to look a certain way, we start seeing the people around us more clearly and more kindly. A friend for a reason might be the neighbor you always wave to and chat with on your morning walk. You may not share your deepest secrets, but there's comfort in that familiar face. Maybe they're the person who helped you when your car wouldn't start, or someone you partnered with on a church fundraiser. They came into your life to meet a need, and that's a beautiful thing. A friend for a season might be someone you connected with during a specific chapter. The walking buddy you met during rehab, the fellow caregiver you bonded with while looking after a spouse, or even someone from your grief support group. You walked side by side for a while, and though the season may have shifted, that connection mattered deeply. And then there are the friends who stick. The ones who feel like home. The ones who could walk through your door without knocking, even after months of silence. They may be rare, but 1 or 2 of those people can light up your entire life. The beauty of this framework is that it removes the guilt. It gives you permission to appreciate each friendship for what it is, without trying to force it into what it was, or what you wish it could be. It also reminds you that every season offers a new possibility. And speaking of possibilities, here's something that can truly shift the way you experience friendship. And it's simpler than you think. Make one small connection every single day. That's it. Just one. It might be a quick phone call, a 2-line text message, a smile at the grocery store, a short note in the mail, even a video message. Nothing fancy, just you saying, "Hey, I thought of you today. Hope you're doing well." It's amazing how powerful these small gestures can be. There was a study not long ago, you may have heard about it, where researchers found that when people received an unexpected message from someone they hadn't spoken to in a while, they felt instantly more connected and valued. Even more surprising, the sender completely underestimated how much that small message meant. So if you've been thinking of someone, don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't worry if it's been too long. Just reach out. That little ripple could be the start of something new, or the spark that rekindles something old and wonderful. Now for the last tool. And this one may be the hardest, but it's the most life-changing. You have to be willing to go first. I know, it's not easy. Especially when you're not sure if the other person will respond. Especially when vulnerability feels a little risky. But connection requires courage, even the small, quiet kind. Think about the last time someone invited you to something, even just a cup of coffee. Chances are, it felt nice to be thought of. Now imagine being the person who gives that gift to someone else. Maybe it's saying yes to an invitation you'd normally turn down. Maybe it's inviting someone to join you for lunch after church. Maybe it's asking a neighbor if they'd like to walk once a week. Whatever it looks like, let it be small, doable, and rooted in kindness, not pressure. A woman I know, let's call her Lorraine, started something beautiful with just one question. She'd moved into a retirement community and was feeling a bit out of place. One day, while getting her mail, she turned to another woman and said, "Would you ever want to have tea sometime?" That simple invitation turned into a monthly gathering, now 7 women strong, who take turns hosting each other. They laugh, share stories, and say it's the best thing that's happened to them in years. All because someone decided to go first. So today, I want to gently ask you, what small step could you take? Who could you reach out to? What space could you open up just enough for someone to walk in? Because the truth is, connection is not about age. It's about willingness. It's about making room in your heart and your life for new energy, new stories, and new beginnings. And if that feels a little intimidating, I get it, truly. But you're not doing this alone. This channel, this community, this moment right here, it's proof that you still belong, that you are still capable of deep, life-giving connection, that you are not too old, too tired, or too late. You are exactly where you need to be to begin again. So before you click away, let me encourage you to do just one thing. Leave a comment. Share something, even a little, about how you feel when it comes to friendship. Is it something you're craving? Something you've struggled with? Something you've recently found again? Whatever it is, your story matters. And someone else reading it might feel less alone because you spoke up. And if this video spoke to you in any way, go ahead and tap that like button. It's a small gesture, but it lets us know this message matters. And don't forget to subscribe to Strong Elderly Life so we can keep sharing more content that supports your journey, with wisdom, with warmth, and with the reminder that your best days can still be ahead. Because they can. Here's to more laughter, more connection, and more moments that remind you life is still full of love if we're willing to reach for it. You are not alone. You never were. And I, for one, am so glad you're here.